Welcome back to the Tapes Archive podcast, where we release interviews that have never been heard before. In this episode, we have the spaceman himself, Ace Frehley. At the time of this interview in 1994, Frehley was 43 years old and was out on tour. In the interview, Ace talks about playing while being sober, his influence on other guitar players, how Eddie Vedder reminds him of Jim Morrison, and the possibilities of a Kiss reunion. As always, we have music critic Mark Allen at the helm conducting the interview. If you'd like to support the show, please like, follow, and subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. There, we post other content and information not available on the podcast. If you'd like to read the transcripts for any of our episodes, please head over to our website at thetapesarchive.com. We'll jump into the interview after a quick word from our sponsors. The Tapes Archive is proud to be sponsored by the true crime documentary Dead Man's Line.
You've got 100 armed officers around here trying to get a shot at me. I dared them to shoot me. I didn't go down there to be a buffoon. I went down there for vengeance. And by God, I'll have vengeance.
In 1977, Tony Kuritzis kidnapped a mortgage broker and held him captive for 3 days. For the first time ever, the media was able to cover the event live. To some, Tony was a hero. To others, he was a crazed thug. Dead Man's Line, the true story of Tony Kuritzis.
This award-winning film is available exclusively on Amazon Prime. One last thing before we get to the interview, the Tapes Archive podcast is a proud member of Osiris Media, a global community connecting passionate fans with podcasts and experiences about artists and topics you love. Thanks for tuning in, and now it's time to open the vault.
This is Mark.
Mark, it's Ace Frehley.
Ace, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on?
Not too much. Where are you today?
I'm in New York.
Are you,
Where are you?
I'm in Indianapolis.
All right.
Where you'll be next week, I guess. So, are you taking some time off from the road now, or are you in between shows?
For 2 days, then we head out to the Midwest.
Let me start up asking you, you've had a long career, and there's apparently more to come, and I'm interested in your perspective on this. Tell me what's great about rock and roll, and what sucks about rock and roll.
What's great about rock and roll is performing. What sucks is the traveling and all the other bullshit besides performing. Performing is the ultimate. Everything else is bullshit. You know, the traveling, the hotels, room service, they always forget something, you know, that kind of shit. You have to put up with that shit.
So it's
1.5 hours a day is great. The other 22 and a half suck.
Okay. You're between labels now, is that right?
Correct.
And I guess the last solo album was about 4 years ago. Is being a solo artist significantly harder for you?
It's been a harder road since I left Kiss, sure. Basically, it's just Ace Frehley is the name that everybody recognizes. The other 3 members of my band, you know, aren't superstars, so it's not the same. So it's a harder road for me to secure a record deal and so on and so forth. We've been negotiating with 3 or 4 different labels, and I think I'm very, very confident that by the end of the summer we'll have a record deal.
Why do you think it's been so much harder? I mean, other than not having the other members of the band be famous and all that, I mean, you're pretty famous.
Well, my reputation hasn't been that great.
Yeah, what'd you do?
What did I do?
Yeah, what did you do to earn your reputation?
Have you read the press on me for the past 10 years?
On and off, and I've heard some stories and stuff.
Okay. Let's just say I'm the Keith Richards of rock and roll in America.
Are you still the Keith Richards of America?
No, I've been sober now over a year, and it feels great. So hopefully the record companies will take notice of that, especially when they hear the new material, which is probably some of the best stuff I've ever done.
Do you feel more inspired? Is it easier to write now, being sober?
I don't know if I feel more inspired. I just feel it's just different. You know, I approach things a little more analytical, whereas when I was stoned, I used to just, you know, write songs without thinking. You know, so now I think a little more. Hopefully my fans will think this next album will be a better record than I've done in the past. I mean, I hate to say, you know, better. I think it's going to be a great record. it's going to be heavier than the last album.
Do you mind talking a little bit about sobriety? Is that all right?
No, I don't mind.
Okay. What I wanted to ask, I guess, is do you look back on days of drugs and alcohol with regret?
No. I think it was a learning process. I don't regret anything I've done in my life. You live and you learn.
So tell me some things you've learned.
Well, I've learned that that's not the road that I should take at this point in my life. When you're in your 20s, maybe you should experiment with drugs and alcohol. I don't know. I don't like to preach. I don't like to tell people not to drink or not to take drugs. All I know is for me right now, they don't work. So I don't do them.
Having done my share of drugs my own self,
Excuse me?
I'm saying that I did my share of drugs myself. I did my share of drugs too, and I wonder if you, when you look back on it, you think that there was part of it that you attained like a higher state of consciousness.
Higher state of
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean high, but
I
I
would
mean,
say just a different state of consciousness.
yeah. That you do experience things that you wouldn't have otherwise experienced, and that some of those are really good memories.
Yeah, I had some great times. Loaded. I had a lot of fun. Things are a lot different now, though, on the road. Oh, groupie scene, AIDS. It's just not the same. Every dog has his day, and then there's a time and a place for everything. And I think right now it's time for people to calm down and chill out and maybe reevaluate some of their values, because you got people committing suicide. Things are crazy right now. You have the people that are on the edge, and then you have the people that are sane and sober, and the people in the middle that don't know which way to go.
Did you have like record company people saying, "Man, we'd love to sign you, but we're afraid of you. We think you might be bad news"?
That was never said to me.
Was it implied?
Not really. I mean, look at the Rolling Stones. Why, you think Keith Richards is sober? But they're the Rolling Stones. Everybody in that group is a superstar. That was the point I was trying to make before. When I was in KISS, everybody in the group was a superstar. So when you're a solo artist, it's a lot harder to convince a record company that, I mean, if Keith Richards died tomorrow, they'd find somebody to fill in, and it would still be the Rolling Stones. The same way when Brian Jones died. If I died, I'd have 3 hired guns, and that would be the end of the band. That's the gamble, and that's the risk that people are taking. So a record company would think a lot more to take a chance with just a solo artist. With 3 unknowns is a lot more of a risk than signing for people that are rock stars. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely.
That's why I think my problem has been in the past. Also, even though I've been sober for a year, a lot of people don't believe it. That's a problem too.
How did you get sober? Did you just decide to clean up and that was the end, or did you go through a 12-step? Or?
Well, that's kind of a personal question.
Okay.
I'd rather not discuss that.
All right.
Let's just say I'm sober and I went for counseling.
Okay. It's fashionable for a lot of musicians to say that, these days that they were influenced by you and influenced by KISS. Have you heard anyone say it who you were particularly proud about?
You name every top rock and roll group, and the lead guitar player will probably say I was one of their major influences, from Pearl Jam to Skid Row to you name it. I took my daughter to see Pearl Jam, and the lead guitar player asked me for my autograph. These things happen. You got to understand that most of the groups that are popular today, when KISS was their high point in the late 70s, the guys that are popular today were teenagers, and I was a major influence on the guitar players. A lot of people that come up to me and tell me, if it wasn't for me, they would have never picked up the guitar, a live one on a live tour, or they consider their rock and roll Bible. I consider that very flattering. If I knew that was going to be the case, I probably would have practiced a little more. but that's life. You take it as it comes. It's nice, I just turned 43 April 27th, and it's nice to wake up without a hangover. Plus, I have a 13-year-old daughter Well, I'm trying to set an example. How can I tell her not to drink beer if I'm getting drunk on beer every day? That just doesn't flush. I'm trying to set a sober example, so my daughter hopefully will turn out a respectable young lady.
Does she appreciate who you are and what you meant to music?
Yeah.
Oh, she does. Okay, that's good.
In fact, she told me the other day that she enjoys watching me perform more so than anyone else.
What's her name?
Monique.
Monique. Okay. Were you surprised, along the line of all the people who you've influenced, were you surprised to find that Garth Brooks and John Michael Montgomery were among the big Kiss fans?
I was surprised Garth Brooks was. I don't know. Who's Michael Montgomery?
John Michael Montgomery has a couple of big hits. Country.
Style of music.
He's a country guy.
He's country too, yeah. Anybody that's country, I'm surprised that they were influenced by Kiss. Because, you know, Kiss and country are so different.
Yeah, but they seem to have appreciated the theatrics of Kiss.
That was one of the reasons I left the group, because, you know, I consider myself a musician first, entertainer second, and a lot of times the reviews of the group were, you know, the group was a great show and the music was okay. That bothered me, because I consider myself a good guitar player. When people would say that the group is just, you know, an average musical band, but visually we're one of the top theatrical groups in the world, that bothered me. You know, I was voted 4th in the world by Guitar World. That says something. Even though I never took a lesson, I can't read a note, and I don't think Paul and Gene will ever be voted. In fact, they weren't even on the ballot. What can I tell you?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because the one time that I saw Kiss, I think was in 74 or 75, and I don't remember a note of the music, but I do remember some of the show. That's one of the drawbacks of it. Everything takes second place to spitting blood and fire and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, there were evenings when I didn't drink and I wasn't as animated on stage. I was a lot more accurate with my playing. And then there were other nights when I got kind of loaded and, you know, ran around the stage and played sloppy. People would come up to me and say, wow, you played great tonight. And the nights where I wasn't as animated, but I played better, they would say, well, you have a bad night. That kind of shows you what Kiss was all about. It was the show first and the music second. That's okay. I wanted more. And I think my albums since I left Kiss show growth and show that I am an accomplished musician.
Were there other reasons that you left besides that?
Well, there was friction between me, Paul, and Gene. There were a lot of reasons. I don't know if you read the article in Guitar World.
No, I didn't.
If you read the article in Guitar World where I'm on the cover with Snake from Skid Row and Darryl from Pantera, you'll get a good handle on why I left. There's about 20 reasons why I left.
Is that a current issue, or how far back is it?
It was out about maybe 6 months ago. It was one of their biggest sellers, if not their biggest. The rock and roll business is crazy. It's a roller coaster ride.
Do you have any relationship with those guys now?
I'm good friends with Peter. I just finished playing 3 guitar solos on his new CD. Recently, I spoke to Paul and Gene on a conference call, and we kind of buried the hatchet. It was a nice phone call. I apologized for quitting the group. Gene said to me, wow, you sound different. I said, well, that's because I'm not drunk.
Yeah.
Who knows what will happen in the future.
Would you consider going back with them in some capacity?
That's up to them. They own the name, and they'd have to approach me. If it was, how should I say? If it was offered to me in the proper way, and it was a fair deal, I would seriously consider it.
A lot of people say that the guys that they've gotten since have been maybe technically more accomplished than you, but the emotion and the licks are, I mean, they can't touch you for that. I don't know if you've listened to Kiss since you left, but do you have any sense of that? Is that an accurate reading?
I think Bruce Kulick is an excellent guitar player. Technically, he's probably better than me. So are a lot of other guitar players. As you said, when you play, there's something more than technicality. that people judge musicians by. It's emotion, and it's not how fast you can play. It's how how you play. Some guy can play in a four-bar solo, 100 notes, whereas one guy can play 5 notes, and the solo with the 5 notes sounds better. Why? Because it has feeling. I consider myself a blues rock guitar player. I was a big fan of B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King. I learned from those guys, Eric Clapton. And I think some of the best solos are the solos that you can hum, that you can remember. It's hard to hum 30-second notes. So I think you got my point.
Tell me about the artwork that you do. It's sort of explained in the bio, but not completely. So.
Well, my second love is computer graphics. For the past 2 or 3 years, I've been seriously involved with computer graphics as my second love. Last year, I did a show at a gallery where I displayed, it was 16 or 18 pieces of my artwork. And this spring, I'm planning a show in New York to display some of my artwork. I'm also getting involved with animation, digital video, and how to play with it, and special effects. I have about a $50,000 system.
What are your solo concerts like? I imagine they're nothing like Kiss. So,
my solo concert?
Yeah, when you play here, what is your show like?
My band?
Yeah.
Well, have you heard any of my albums?
Yeah, not for a while, but I heard them when they came out, sure.
Well, my style hasn't changed very much from the style of Kiss. I played with Kiss for 10 years, and basically my style is the same. I'm just a hard rock guitar player. The show that I'm performing now, there's a lot of old Kiss songs and a lot of my favorites. I think it's songs. That's my fax line. Oh, no, that's my other line. Hold on a second, please. Anyway, where were we?
You were telling.
Sorry, we were interrupted.
You were telling me about that basically you're playing hard rock.
The band.
Yes.
Yeah, the band's real heavy. It's similar to Kiss. I think we're better than Kiss. I think we play Kiss songs better than Kiss plays Kiss songs. A lot of the songs in the set consist of Kiss songs, and also stuff I've done since I left Kiss.
What are some of your Kiss favorites?
Deuce, Detroit Rock City, Cold Gin, which I wrote, Snowblind, which is off my solo album while I was in Kiss, New York Groove, Parasite.
That's a pretty good list.
Yeah.
Do you miss the big show, big stage?
Strange Ways.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's probably one of my favorite guitar solos. In fact, the lead singer from Skid Row, Sebastian Bach, told me he always used to listen to the solo in Strange Ways right before he went on stage, just to get fired up.
It's amazing. I mean, how many people you've affected. Do you miss the big stages, big shows, big crowds, the whole rock star thing?
Do I miss arenas? Yes and no. I miss the money.
Yeah.
As far as playing smaller venues, actually, I enjoy them more. When you play the big arenas, you got that big barricade. You can't even touch the fans. They're usually at least 10 feet away from the edge of the stage. Whereas when you're playing, at 1,000 or a 1,500 seat arena, you usually have the ability to at least touch your fans. So it's a little more intimate. It's more fun for me, even though it's not as profitable. Basically, I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing it because I enjoy performing, and I want to continue to perform.
What do you think of bands like Strutter and all these other Kiss tribute bands?
Well, I'm very flattered that groups emulate Kiss. Obviously, the fact that there's so many out there, obviously there's a market for it. So maybe one day there will be a reunion. Paul and Gene, decide to get smart and cash in on it. But that's between those guys.
Yeah, you said you had talked to them on a conference call. Was that initiated by you or by them?
Well, that was initiated by our attorneys because we had some business that needed to be discussed. Nothing to do with a Kiss reunion.
People have asked me to ask you this. Your image is still on a lot of T-shirts that are around and all that are being sold brand new now. Are you...
Yeah, Kiss puts those out.
Do you own your own image?
No, I don't.
Oh, man. That can't be easy to take, I would think. That'd be very difficult to look and
I
realize.
can deal with it.
Can you? Okay.
You know. So I designed something, all right, so somebody else owns it, big deal. As far as our contracts are concerned, nobody else can wear my makeup. In other words, let's say Kiss decide to do a Kiss reunion without me, that they wouldn't be allowed to do that. They wouldn't be allowed to dress somebody else up as Ace Frehley. Or if they did a Broadway show like Beatlemania, they wouldn't be allowed to do that legally.
But they can put your face on T-shirts and sell them.
Yes, they can.
Thanks.
Big deal. I think it just perpetuates the myth of the group. And if they're putting my face on T-shirts, obviously they're doing it for a reason. And I think it begins with the word M and ends in the word Y.
Well, you're taking it pretty well, I guess.
Well, what else can I do? I'm really happy with the group I have now. On guitar, I have Richie Scarlett helping me out. I have a new bass player called Saul Zonana, Saulzonanaa, like banana with an O. And on drums, I have Steve Werner, and we're all from the metropolitan area, the New York area.
Yeah.
And it's a great lineup. The group is really a kick-ass band, and I'm having more fun now playing with these guys than I've ever had. So I'm going to continue to do so until I get bored. When I get bored, I'll do computer graphics as a living.
Just a couple of other things, I'll let you go. For another story I'm working on, I'm asking everybody I interview if music were like the stock market and you could invest in some young, up-and-coming act, who have you heard or seen that you like?
I don't listen to the radio. When I drive in the car, I don't listen to the radio. I throw in Jimi Hendrix, or I throw in Cream, or Jeff Beck. I don't really listen to the radio very much. I'm not too familiar with a lot of the new groups. My daughter helps me out on that. Groups like Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots, and that whole Seattle sound. She's into that. That'd be a hard question for me to answer, and I really couldn't answer it, to be honest with you.
You said you went to see Pearl Jam. Did you like it?
I thought they were excellent. The lead singer reminded me of Jim Morrison, kind of like a rock poet.
With any luck, you won't meet Jim Morrison's end.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I hope not. Because I heard he's a very depressed guy, very moody, like Jim Morrison was. So let's hope he hangs around a while.
The last thing I wanted to ask you is I've talked to a bunch of people around. I called a bunch of people I know who are really huge Kiss fans, and they were saying that they had met you at one time or another, and that you always seemed a little pissed off and a little angry. Can that be attributed to the drinking?
How recent?
Oh, this was probably 10 years ago or more.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because I used to have a hangover in the morning. When kids would come up to me, I was always in a bad mood because I had a headache.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk to anybody with a headache.
Well, as long as you're feeling better now.
I'm feeling a lot better now.
Is it harder to do this at 43 than it is at 23?
Believe it or not, it's a lot easier to do it now sober at 43 than it was in my 20s. Drunk. I'll be around a while. Nice talking to you, Mark.
Same here. Thanks a lot. Take care.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, same here.
You going to be at the show?
I'm planning to be, yeah.
Okay, well, hopefully I'll meet you there.
Okay. I'll come
take
over.
Care now.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Tapes Archive podcast. Please remember you can always find more information about the show and the individual episodes at our website, thetapesarchive.com. Until next time, the vault is closed.